Joanna Hodorowska, Nutrition in Motion, Nutrition for Body, Mind, Spirit, and Sport.
Last week I did half a dozen race day nutrition sessions with clients who are training for a fall marathon and a couple that are actually training for the Atlantic City Half Ironman, the 70.3, which is next weekend. So it's 11 days away. And it's still plenty of time to get that race day nutrition session in, so that instead of having that, that race just didn't go so well. I kind of felt terrible during the run portion, and you want something better than that. So if you've got friends that are training for a half Ironman or for a marathon, and you ask them how their training is going, if they respond with anything other than "I rock the run, I rock the training," it's time for them to actually schedule a race day nutrition session. And one of the advantages of working with me is that I am an athlete. So even though most people, most magazines, most coaching programs, they talk about signs of dehydration, but they pretty much only focus on cramping, GI distress, and sometimes they don't even talk about that. And very limited in terms of the symptoms. With 30 years of doing my own racing and then working with clients for 15 years and almost 16, I can tell you that I didn't know back then that I was dehydrating. So it's hard to really fix your issues if you don't really know you're dehydrating. So part of my work with my athletes is to help them understand what are your symptoms of dehydration, and they're going to be a little bit different on the bike than they are on the run. So I'm just going to go over some of these signs of dehydration so that you have an idea of what to look for. And then if you have some of these symptoms, then you can call me, nutritioninmotion.net. Go to the website and contact me, and we can devise a plan that will actually work with your symptoms and with the products that you are already using. So to start with, on the bike and on the run, you're going to feel like you're just a little bit tired. It's almost going to feel like you had the wind knocked out of your sails and you're just kind of dragging. If you're on the bike, you have to pull back a gear because the gearing is too hard, and it's just too much effort, so you have to back it off. You might start feeling that you're really starting to get stiff in the neck, stiff in the hips, and that's something that really happens on the bike quite a bit. You might also find that your hamstrings are getting tight. And that was one of the big things that I always had in half Ironmans and other events, is the hamstrings would start to get tight. So those usually start on the bike, and then when you get on the run, those things only get worse. And one of the key things that can happen also when you're dehydrating is you can get despondent. And I remember in Ironman USA, which is the one in Lake Placid, which used to be called USA, it was in 2001. I kind of was getting a little draggy, got that wind knocked out of my sails, my hamstrings were tight, I was kind of like, oh my god, how am I even going to finish this darn thing? And I started getting completely despondent. Like, what the hell did I even do this thing? Like, what was I thinking when I signed up for this? And this is that despondency that a lot of clients get, that they don't realize that that's actually a sign of dehydration. So that is what, 5 of them, 6 of them? Now when you get to the run, you're going to have those, and they're probably going to get worse. Your legs are going to feel like they are filled with lead. You may start getting slightly nauseous. You might get a slight headache. You might start getting the chills. You might just feel like you're totally overheating and, oh my god, I can't cool off. These are all signs of dehydration, which a lot of what I do too is not only is it the signs of dehydration and what to do when you get them, but how do we plan your event so that you actually don't get the symptoms? And that's really the key part, is I want you to have more fun in your event. So once you kind of address look at the symptoms and see, oh yeah, I have one of them, oh no, I have several of them, and you know what to do, then the event becomes so much easier. I'm going to continue with the signs of dehydration because that's still not all of them. A new one that came up just this past year, one of my clients is like, hey, you know what? I feel like my head's underwater. and my ear feels like it's got water in it. Well, I never had that one before until they mentioned it, and then that started to be one of my signs of dehydration as well. Um, Another one, I have one client who her sign of dehydration was just basically throwing up, and this was anywhere, somewhere in the marathon portion, probably in the last 4 miles of the event. So those are general 16 signs of symptoms. There's still another four, and usually when I'm with my clients, we go over every single one and see, okay, you might feel this, you might feel that. And typically the response that my clients give are like, did you race with me? Were you there at my race? So I do know some of the signs and symptoms intimately, unfortunately, and fortunately, because if I didn't know that that's what it was, then I wouldn't be able to help you sort through them. So if you're having any of these signs of dehydration, or if you have other ones that you want to post down at the underneath there, let me know, and we can devise a plan to help you to actually overcome the signs of dehydration. We can help you prevent any signs of dehydration, and then you can have one of those events where you can say, man, I totally rocked that race, instead of saying, that was kind of sucky. So if you want a non-sucky and you want an awesome event experience, contact me, Joanna Hodorowska, Nutrition in Motion, nutrition for body, mind, spirit, and